Look at your hands. Right now, as you listen to this voice, a silent, undeclared civil war is raging inside your skull. On one side is your ancient, primitive brain, inherited from your ancestors, constantly screaming, "Danger! Check your notifications. Take a break. This work can wait." On the other side is your young, developed brain, your control center, trying to maintain focus and work on important tasks. 95% of people lose this war every day. Their ancient brain dictates the rules, forcing them to endlessly switch between tasks, procrastinate, and live in a state of constant anxiety. The result? Unfinished projects, missed deadlines, a feeling of burnout by lunchtime, and the nagging realization that you are capable of more. But what if I told you that 400 years ago, a formula for ending this war was discovered? The samurai didn't know the words neuroplasticity or default system, but they created a system of mental training that transformed a chaotic, anxious mind into a silent, razor-sharp instrument. They called it Mushin, empty mind, a state in which action is born before thought, a state in which you don't make a decision, but simply act, and your actions are perfect. Modern neuroscience calls this the flow state, or transient hypofrontality. It's not magic, it's a specific, achievable state of your brain. And today, you'll receive a system for entering it on command. Let's transport ourselves to Edo period Japan. Not to the battlefield, not to the great battles. Imagine a quiet dojo room where a young samurai named Setsunosuke pored over ancient fencing texts. He was incredibly intelligent. He had studied the works of Sun Tzu, knew all the schools of fencing by heart, and could spend hours discussing strategy and tactics. His mind was razor sharp, and that was his curse. In training, he was a nightmare for all the masters. In 5 seconds of sparring, he could analyze his opponent's stance, identify their weaknesses, anticipate 3 possible attacks and 5 counterattacks. And he always lost, because while his brain worked like a supercomputer, his body froze. He thought, and his opponents acted. After yet another humiliating defeat, when he fell in the dust, struck by a less educated but more determined samurai, an old, nearly blind master, Kozai, approached him. He didn't teach him new techniques. He took his sword and spoke words that turned Setsunosuke's world upside down. "Young master, your mind is a beautiful cage. You've adorned it with knowledge like precious stones, but you're still in a cage. You fight opponents in your imagination, not those in front of you. You're trying to solve an equation when you just need to strike." Setsunosuke looked at him in bewilderment. "But how can you fight without thinking? That's madness." "No," the old man smiled. "Madness is trying to win a battle that only takes place in your head. The real battle is here and now, and it doesn't have time to wait for your calculations." It was then that Setsunosuke first heard the word that would become his salvation: Mushin. Master Kozai explained that the path to Mushin consists of 3 stages. These aren't just techniques, they're stages of reprogramming the very connection between your brain and body. The first stage, Seikatsu, daily life. This is the foundation. Here, you learn to move your consciousness out of your head and into your body. You shift your focus from thoughts of the past and future to the physical sensations of the present moment. The second stage, Maitori, seeing the essence. When the mind is calm, you learn to perceive the world directly, without the filters of judgment and labels. You see not a problem, but simply a situation. Not an enemy, but simply a person in a certain posture. The third stage, Mushin, empty mind. The culmination. Thinking disappears. Action and reaction become one. You don't use the technique. The technique manifests through you. Seikatsu, Maitori, Mushin. Skipping a stage is like trying to build a roof without a foundation. You will simply create another mental construct, another cage for your mind. For Setsunosuke, the most humiliating stage had begun. Master Kozai had taken his sword from him. Instead of sparring, there were tea ceremonies. Instead of studying the treatises, he washed the floors of the dojo. When you wash the floor, It's just my floor, the master said. When you drink tea, just drink tea. Don't think about how you're doing it. Don't judge how well you're doing it. Just do it. Feel the wood under the cloth. Feel the warmth of the cup in your palms. Hear the sound of the water. This is your practice. Setsunosuke was going crazy. His intellect, his pride, rebelled against this primitive work. Master, I must train with the sword. I'm wasting precious time while others perfect their technique, he begged. No, Kozi answered calmly. For the first time, you've begun to gain time. You've lost touch with reality. You live in a world of concepts, in a world of words and ideas. Return to the world of sensations, the world that exists here and now. Feel the warmth of the cup. Hear the sound of the water. Feel the muscles in your shoulders and back working as you move the mop. You think I'm teaching you how to mop floors. I'm teaching you how to be alive, how to be present. And Setsunosuke washed the floors, drank tea, walked in the garden. At first, his mind was racing. He made to-do lists, analyzed yesterday's mistakes, made plans for the future. His thoughts were like a swarm of angry bees. Then, after weeks, the swarm began to subside. He noticed that he could completely immerse himself in a simple action. The sense of time disappeared. Internal criticism disappeared. There was no, I'm doing this well, or I'm doing this poorly. There was simply action, simply presence. One day, while washing the floor, he suddenly realized he wasn't thinking about anything at all. His consciousness was pure, clear, and silent, like the surface of a mountain lake at dawn. It lasted only a moment, but it was the most intense and real moment of his life. What was actually happening in his brain at that moment? Modern neuroscience gives us a precise answer. The practice of mindfulness in action, Seikatsu, is a powerful tool for weakening the default mode network, DMN. The DMN is the brain's default mode of operation when it is not occupied with specific external tasks. And it is this mode that generates that incessant internal dialogue, anxiety about the future, regrets about the past, self-criticism, and comparison with others. When you shift your focus to bodily sensations, to what you feel, hear, and see right now, you literally switch your brain from the DMN to the networks responsible for immediate perception. You give the prefrontal cortex, the control center, a break from constant analysis and planning. You train your brain to be here and now, not in the virtual reality of your thoughts. Your first task on the path to Mushin is to begin the Seikatsu stage. The next 7 days are your return to the body stage. Choose 2 or 3 simple everyday activities that you perform on autopilot. For example, your morning shower, your commute to work, or washing the dishes after dinner. Your goal is to transform them into a practice of presence. When you shower, feel the temperature of the water on your skin, the texture of the soap, the scent of the shampoo. When you walk, feel the contact of your feet with the ground, the movement of the air, the surrounding sounds. When you wash the dishes, feel the warmth of the water, the glide of the sponge, the shine of a clean plate. Your goal is not to do it perfectly, but to catch yourself when your mind has wandered off into thoughts and gently, without self-flagellation, bring it back to sensations. You are not washing the dishes. You are training your brain to be here and now. You are laying the foundation without which the state of Mushin is unattainable. This is the foundation. When Setsunosuke's mind ceased to be a constant seething stream of thoughts and became calmer and clearer, Master Kozi brought him back to the dojo, but not for combat. He placed him in front of the other samurai training and said, "Look, don't judge, don't analyze, don't name their techniques. Don't think this is a good stance or this is a weak strike. Just look, see them as a whole. See the space between them. See the energy of the movement." At first, it was impossible. Setsunosuke's brain automatically, against his will, clung to labels. Low stance, slow turn, weak grip. He's tired. His mind was like a magpie, snatching and labeling everything it saw. But the master again and again brought him back to simple, pure observation. Seeing is not thinking. Thinking is interpretation. Seeing is simply receiving light through the eyes. Let the eye see and the mind be silent. And again, weeks of practice. Setsunosuke sat for hours and simply watched. First at the training sessions, then at the trees in the garden, at the flowing water in the stream. and again a breakthrough. He began to see not the individual movements of the samurai, but holistic patterns, not attack and defense, but a single, continuous flow of energy. He began to notice the subtle micro-movements that preceded an attack, the almost invisible shifts in balance. He began to anticipate movements not through logical analysis. If he stands like this, he will probably do that, but through direct, intuitive, almost physical sensation. His consciousness became a pure mirror, adding nothing of its own, but simply reflecting what was there. He learned to see the essence, bypassing labels. Neuroscience calls this training in non-conceptual awareness. The human brain is a master cataloger. It's evolutionarily wired to immediately label everything we see: dangerous, beneficial, edible, complex. This creates an instant, but often distorted, interpretation of reality and introduces a delay between perception and reaction. Maitori practice teaches you to perceive information directly through the visual cortex and thalamus, largely bypassing the excessive conceptual processing in the prefrontal cortex. You see not your idea about a phenomenon, but the phenomenon itself. This makes your perception more accurate and your reaction times much faster. You begin to read the situation rather than analyze it. Your second task is to enter the Maitori stage. The next 7 days are training in pure vision. Set aside 10-15 minutes a day for this practice. Sit on a park bench and simply look at people, trees, dogs, or observe your colleagues in the office, or what's happening outside the window. Your task is to turn off the inner commentator. Catch the moment when your mind whispers, "That person is dressed strangely," or "That bird is flying south," and simply return to pure vision. Not a person in a blue jacket hurrying somewhere, but simply the movement of blue in space. Not a tree swaying in the wind, but simply the movement of green spots. You are training to see the world as it is, before your mind attaches its old, dusty labels to it. You are polishing the mirror of your perception. Arrived, Master Koze led Setsunosuke to a moonlit clearing and gave him a dull, wooden sword. "You will fight 3 opponents simultaneously," he said, "and you will have no time to think. Every thought will cost you defeat." Old, seemingly vanquished fears returned with renewed vigor. His mind whispered panic. 3 opponents? This is suicide. We must think through a strategy. We must choose the weakest and take him out first. But Setsunosuke still remembered the sensations in his body, the warmth of the wooden hilt in his palms. Shikatsu. He remembered the pure vision, how he spent hours watching the trainees. Maitori. He didn't fight the fear. He simply took a deep breath and let it be, observing it like a cloud in the sky. The opponents attacked from 3 sides, and then something inexplicable happened. Setsunosuke's body moved on its own. He didn't choose his moves, didn't analyze the angles of attack, didn't calculate his options. He simply moved, and his movements were a perfect, elegant, deadly response to every attack. He dodged a blow that hadn't yet been delivered. He parried an attack the opponent had only just begun to plan. He counterattacked in the single possible millisecond, all in one smooth, continuous, beautiful flow. It was like a dance, like a stream of water flowing over rocks. There was no Setsunosuke, no opponents, no sword. There was only dance. As the 3 opponents lay on the ground, Setsunosuke stood, barely catching his breath, his face calm. He couldn't remember what exactly he had been doing. It was like waking from a deep, dreamless sleep. He was simply there. Master Kozai approached him. "Congratulations," he said. "You have achieved Mushin. You are no longer an archer aiming at a target. You have become the shot itself. From now on, the sword holds you, not you, the sword." What is this magical state? From a scientific perspective, the Mushin state is the peak manifestation of flow. At this moment, a remarkable phenomenon occurs: transient hypofrontality. This is a temporary but significant decrease in activity in the prefrontal cortex, the very area responsible for self-control, conscious planning, logical analysis, and crucially, your sense of self. When it quiets, the inner critic disappears, doubt disappears, self-awareness vanishes, control of actions shifts to the more ancient and faster parts of the brain, the cerebellum and basal ganglia, which are responsible for automated, highly refined skills. You literally switch off interfering consciousness and act on pure, honed intuition. The brain is flooded with the genius cocktail: dopamine, norepinephrine, anandamide, endorphins, creating a feeling of lightness, energy, bliss, and complete fusion with the action. Your path to Mushin is not a direct one. This state cannot be induced at will, any more than one can force oneself to sleep. It descends upon those who have undergone seikatsu and maitori, those who have established a connection with the body and honed their perception. Your task is to practice the first two stages so diligently and consistently that one day, at a critical moment, during an important presentation, a difficult negotiation, a creative act, or a sports competition, you will no longer find yourself acting without internal dialogue. The solution comes by itself. The words find themselves. The movement occurs automatically. This will be your first true glimpse of Mushin, and once you have tasted this state, you will never be able to return to living under the tyranny of your own thoughts. Now, stop. Let's be honest. Why, knowing all this, are you unlikely to implement the Mushin system? Why will this video remain just another interesting file in your viewing history? Because your mind, your inner demon, will sabotage you at every step. It will whisper the same excuses that hindered Setsunosuke at the beginning of his journey. This is too simple and boring. Where are the complex techniques? Where is the secret knowledge? I need a hack, not washing dishes. I don't have time for this nonsense. I need to work, earn money, do real work. I'm a creative person. I need an internal dialogue, chaos in my head for inspiration. Without it, I can't create. How can you act without thinking? That's irresponsible. You need to weigh everything and calculate. Know this. This is the voice of your old, ineffective operating system. It's the voice of a mind that fears its own extinction because its existence is built on constant mental activity. The modern world, with its cult of multitasking, incessant information consumption, and encouragement of hyperactivity, only reinforces this programming. The Mushin state is an act of rebellion against this system. It's a choice in favor of quality over quantity, depth over surface, essence over label. Theory without action is dead. Information without application is just noise. So here's your 21-day brain rewiring protocol, your step-by-step plan for turning knowledge into experience. Week 1. Seikatsu, returning to the body. Monday, 10-minute mindful morning ritual, preparing and drinking tea or coffee with full attention to the sensations. Tuesday, mindful walking practice, 10 minutes of walking, focusing on the sensations in your feet, body movement, and surrounding sounds. Wednesday, 2 sets of mindful action for 5 minutes, for example, washing dishes or clearing the table. Thursday, evening reflection. When did my mind wander the most during the day? No judgment, just collecting data. Friday, anchor breathing practice. 5 minutes of observing the breath, returning to it each time the mind drifts. Saturday, 1-hour digital detox. Completely disconnect from all devices, being in the physical world. Sunday, planning the week ahead with mindfulness practices in mind. Week 2, Maitori, clearing perception. Monday, 10 minutes of pure observation practice, looking at nature from a window or in a park. Tuesday, mindful listening during a single conversation, paying full attention to the other person's words without forming a response in your head. Wednesday, observing your emotions like the weather without identifying, just irritation appeared, joy passed. Thursday, practice slowly looking at one object, a leaf, a cup, for 5 minutes, noticing all the details without judgment. Friday, mindful perception during a work meeting, seeing the dynamics between people, not just the content of the conversation. Saturday, 15 minutes of reflection. What did I see, hear, feel differently this week? Sunday, practice delayed judgment. Catch yourself making instant judgments and put them aside for 5 seconds, returning to pure perception. Week 3, Mushin, integration and breakthrough. Monday, 15 minutes of seated meditation, observing thoughts as clouds without involvement. Tuesday, conscious improvisation in small tasks. Act quickly without giving the mind time to analyze. For example, quickly reply to an email without rereading it 10 times. Wednesday, practice intentional action. Before starting a task, clearly formulate an intention and then release control, allowing the action to flow. Thursday, creating conditions for flow. Remove all possible distractions and immerse yourself in a complex task for 90 minutes. Friday, analysis. Was there a moment of spontaneous right action today? What preceded it? Saturday, practice intuitive choice. In everyday situations, what to eat, where to go, trust the first impulse rather than analysis. Sunday, system maintenance planning. How to integrate best practices into your everyday life. This protocol is your wooden sword. It's simple, but not easy. It will require discipline, especially in the early days, when your old mind will desperately resist and seek excuses. But every practice you complete is a hammer blow, forging the steel of your mind. Every minute of pure observation is a whetstone, sharpening the blade of your perception. If you've reached this point, you're no longer the same person who started reading this text. You've learned that the greatest power lies not in adding something new, but in removing what's superfluous, in eliminating the noisiest, most intrusive intermediary between you and reality, your own hyperactive mind. You've learned about a state where thought doesn't guide action, but follows it, where solutions are born not from analysis, but from a clear, silent vision of the essence. This channel is our dojo, not a place for simple life hacks and superficial advice, but a space for deep work on the architecture of our own consciousness, a place where we practice not new techniques, but fundamental states of being. So my call to you today is simple and specific. Write just one phrase in the comments. My mindful action for tomorrow is your simple action. For example, mindfully drinking my morning coffee or mindfully taking a 10-minute walk. Make this intention public. Share it with your community. Take the first, most important step from knowledge to experience, from concept to action. Hit the subscribe button and hit the bell, because equally powerful systems await us. From Spartan mental resilience to Viking fearlessness, your transformation is just beginning. Mushin isn't a destination. It's a door to a world where you're no longer a slave to your thoughts, but the master of your every action. A world where you don't think about life, but live it, fully, deeply, completely. Now go, and stop thinking about it. Start doing it.